All right, in our third installment on the Lord's Supper, when we're talking about how it is that we can receive such benefits, it's not just eating and drinking that we're doing that can do such things by giving us Christ himself and the forgiveness of sins, but it's the Word of God that empowers it. I want to talk a little bit about other churches' views. Some churches teach that Jesus isn't really in the Lord's Supper. He isn't really in with and under the bread and wine because it's impossible according to human reason. Though it is true that this idea of Jesus being truly present in the Lord's Supper seems impossible, why do we know it is possible? Share three things which are impossible, but which God has expressed about himself, has done, and has promised. If that can help us, again, answer a question that we asked in the previous video. Can you think of three things that Jesus has promised, has done, has accomplished, that God has promised, done, and accomplished that are impossible? How might those other examples address our skepticism about Jesus' real presence in the Lord's Supper? By the way, just a footnote, churches that teach that Jesus isn't really there, present, it's just a memorial meal, something we offer up to God in eating and drinking to remember his sacrifice. They have this view of the Lord's Supper that it's a representation of the Lord's body and blood. So they have a representation view, a representative view of the Lord's Supper. We, in our understanding of the scriptures, have a real presence view. That's what we call it. We have the doctrine of the real presence. So we recognize Christ as really present. The bread and wine don't just represent him. He's really present. Matthew 19:26, to help us in this idea that God does the impossible, even can come in a special presence for our forgiveness in bread and wine. He says in Matthew 19:26b, all things are possible with God. All things are possible with God. So were you able to come up with three examples of God doing the impossible? Why wouldn't he be able to do the same thing in the Lord's Supper? Blessings on your discussion. We'll see you in the next video.